Walk beneath the streets of modern Rome and you'll discover something that could rewrite everything you think you know about Western civilization. Construction workers building Rome's metro system regularly uncover archaeological treasures that reveal the incredible truth about this city's evolution. What they found proves that Rome's survival wasn't just unlikely, it was one of the most remarkable transformations in human history. Every other ancient city that tried to become an empire failed and disappeared. Babylon forgotten. Carthage erased. Alexandria lost to time. But somehow, Rome survived for over 2,000 years and is still here, still influencing your life in ways you never realized. Here's what makes no sense. Rome started as a collection of mud huts on 7 swampy hills. No natural resources. No strategic harbor. No obvious advantages. Yet it became one of the longest-lasting and most influential civilizations in human history. The question that has puzzled historians for centuries is simple. How? Using advanced AI reconstruction trained on thousands of archaeological discoveries, ancient texts and historical records, we're going to show you Rome as it actually appeared in each era. Not artist impressions or Hollywood fantasies, but historically accurate reconstructions based on real evidence. You're about to witness the most dramatic transformation in human history. From mud huts to marble temples. From a tiny village to the capital of 3 continents. From ancient empire to modern metropolis. This is the complete evolution of Rome, and by the end you'll understand why this city refuses to die. The year is 753 BCE. According to legend, 2 brothers, Romulus and Remus, are standing on the Palatine Hill, arguing over where to build their new city. The dispute escalates until Romulus betrays his own twin brother in a moment of rage. Rome's legendary founding is marked by betrayal and conflict, and this competitive DNA would flow through every generation for the next 2,000 years. Here's what's fascinating. Modern archaeologists have excavated the exact same hills and found Iron Age settlements dating to the 8th century BCE. The legend of Romulus might be myth, but the archaeological evidence proves people were living here at precisely the right time and place. Early Rome had a critical demographic problem: almost no women. The solution was drastic and controversial. During a religious festival, Roman men systematically abducted dozens of women from the neighboring Sabine tribe. This mass abduction changed the course of their history. When the Sabine warriors came for revenge, something unexpected happened. The abducted women stood between the 2 armies and stopped the battle. They had built new lives and didn't want their fathers killing their new husbands or vice versa. This became Rome's first rule: when you can't defeat your enemies, integrate them and absorb them. The settlement was pathetic by any standard. Mud brick huts with thatched roofs and dirt floors. The entire population was maybe 4,000 people living like Bronze Age farmers. Yet they had chosen one of the most strategically perfect locations in human geography: hills overlooking a river crossing 15 miles from the Mediterranean, close enough for trade but far enough from pirates. For 244 years, Rome was ruled by 7 kings. Some were brilliant, like Numa Pompilius, who created Roman law. Some were tyrannical, like Tarquin the Proud, who was so brutal that Romans swore they would never allow another king to rule them. Ever. 509 BCE. The Romans overthrow their final king and create something that had never existed before: a republic. Not a democracy like Athens where anyone could vote, but a complex system where power was carefully balanced between elected officials, the Senate, and the people. This wasn't idealism, this was survival. Rome was completely surrounded by enemies. Etruscans to the north who saw Romans as upstart peasants. Greek colonies to the south who viewed them as barbarians. Gallic tribes everywhere who wanted to raid and pillage. Everyone wanted Rome destroyed before it grew strong enough to threaten them. Rome's response was to create something the world had never seen: the professional legion. While other armies relied on aristocratic warriors fighting for personal glory, Rome created a military machine where every citizen served, everyone followed orders, and the only goal was victory no matter the cost. This changed everything. Roman soldiers didn't fight for kings or personal honor, they fought for Rome itself, for their fellow citizens, for their share of the loot. It created a culture where military conquest wasn't just acceptable, it was a civic duty. One by one, Rome conquered and absorbed its neighbors. The genius strategy: instead of ruling conquered peoples as slaves, offer them Roman citizenship. Turn your enemies into Romans. By 264 BCE, Rome controlled the entire Italian peninsula and commanded the loyalty of millions of former enemies. The city was transforming rapidly. Stone temples replaced wooden huts. Massive aqueducts brought fresh mountain water. The first paved roads connected Rome to its growing network of colonies. This was no longer a hilltop village, it was becoming the beating heart of something vast. Then Rome encountered something it had never faced before, an enemy as powerful as itself. Carthage controlled the Mediterranean and possessed a navy that could blockade Roman ports. What followed were the Punic Wars, 3 conflicts so brutal and total that historians still study them as examples of total warfare. Hannibal crossed the Alps with war elephants and nearly captured Rome itself. For 18 months, his army camped outside the city walls while Romans starved inside. The entire Roman project hung by a thread. One more victory in Carthage would have erased Rome from history. But Rome did what Rome always did. It absorbed the punishment, learned from defeat, and came back stronger. When the wars ended, Carthage was systematically demolished. Every building destroyed, every citizen sold into slavery, the entire culture erased from the region. Rome's message to the world was clear: resist us completely and we will destroy you completely. Victory over Carthage made Rome impossibly wealthy almost overnight. Gold from Spanish mines, grain from Sicily, slaves from everywhere, luxury goods from Greece and Asia. The city exploded in size and grandeur. Marble temples, massive basilicas, elaborate forums lined with columns and statues. But massive wealth created massive problems. The gap between rich and poor became obscene. Veterans returned from decades of war to find their farms ruined and their families in debt. Politicians became openly corrupt, buying votes and selling offices. Slave revolts erupted across Italy as millions of prisoners of war were worked to death in Roman mines and plantations. The Roman Republic, designed to govern a small city-state, was breaking under the pressure of ruling an empire that stretched from Spain to Turkey. What followed was a century of civil wars so destructive that they nearly ended Rome's story permanently. Marius versus Sulla. Caesar versus Pompey. Antony versus Octavian. Roman armies that had conquered the known world were now slaughtering each other in the streets of Rome. The city burned. The economy collapsed. Citizens fled to the countryside or foreign cities. Julius Caesar seized power as dictator and was assassinated on the floor of the Senate by multiple conspirators. His assassins thought they were saving the Republic. Instead, they guaranteed its death, because Caesar had an heir who was smarter, more patient, and infinitely more ruthless. Octavian, renamed Augustus, pulled off the greatest political trick in history. He kept all the traditional forms of the Republic, Senate meetings, consul elections, citizen assemblies, while secretly concentrating absolute power in his own hands. Romans got stability and prosperity. Augustus got total control over the known world. And Rome itself? Augustus transformed it from a city of brick into a city of marble. The Forum of Augustus with its towering temple to Mars. The Theater of Marcellus that could seat 15,000 people. The Campus Martius is filled with baths, gardens, and monuments. Rome was no longer just a capital, it was a work of art designed to showcase imperial power. The Romans didn't just build big, they built things that defied physics. The Claudian aqueduct system brought millions of gallons of fresh water daily from springs dozens of miles away, a feat of engineering that supplied the entire city. Roman concrete, made with volcanic ash from Mount Vesuvius, created domes and arches that modern engineers still study for their techniques. By 100 CE, Rome housed between 800,000 to 1 million people, making it one of the largest cities in the ancient world. Archaeological evidence shows massive infrastructure. Free grain rations prevented starvation, public baths provided hygiene and social spaces, and entertainment venues like the Colosseum and Circus Maximus could accommodate hundreds of thousands simultaneously. Rome had created one of history's most sophisticated urban civilizations. Then came the ultimate symbol of Roman excess, the Colosseum. 50,000 spectators watching gladiators fight to the death. Exotic animals shipped from Africa. Mock naval battles fought in a flooded arena. This wasn't just entertainment, it was psychological warfare, a demonstration that Rome could do literally anything. The opening games, according to ancient sources, lasted 100 days. Historical accounts described thousands of animals and gladiators participating in the spectacles. Romans considered it the greatest entertainment complex ever built. The rest of the world saw it as a demonstration of Rome's absolute power and wealth. Under Emperor Trajan, the empire reached its maximum size from Hadrian's Wall in northern Britain to the Sahara Desert in Africa, from the Atlantic Ocean to the Persian Gulf. An estimated 50 to 60 million people lived under Roman rule. If you wanted to trade, travel, or do business anywhere in the civilized world, you had to deal with Rome. Emperor Hadrian rebuilt Rome's most iconic structure, the Pantheon. That concrete dome remained the largest in the world for over 1,300 years. Today, 1,900 years after construction, it's still standing, still weatherproof, still receiving millions of visitors annually. Modern engineers still study its construction techniques. For 200 years, the Roman Empire experienced something unprecedented in human history, the Pax Romana. True peace, prosperity, and progress across 3 continents. A merchant could travel from London to Cairo using Roman coins, speaking Latin, protected by Roman law, staying in Roman inns. Rome became history's first truly cosmopolitan city. Senators from Spain, merchants from Egypt, soldiers from Germany, philosophers from Greece, artists from Gaul. The tiny Italian hill town had become the world's first global capital. Every time Rome tries to modernize, the past fights back. Construction workers building the city's 3rd metro line have uncovered over 40,000 archaeological artifacts. Roman houses with intact frescoes. Medieval churches. Renaissance foundations. Each excavation reveals new layers of history buried beneath modern streets. These discoveries show us that our understanding of Roman daily life has been incomplete. Archaeological excavations regularly uncover well-preserved artifacts including wax tablets, the ancient equivalent of notebooks, containing business records, letters, and daily transactions. These tablets, found across the Roman world, reveal Romans as obsessively organized record keepers who documented everything from tax payments to dinner party guest lists. Modern genetic studies have revealed something fascinating about Rome's evolution. The city's population changed dramatically over the centuries, not through conquest, but through constant absorption of immigrants, traders, and settlers from across the Mediterranean and beyond. Ancient Rome was history's first truly multicultural metropolis. Tombstone inscriptions show people from Gaul, Spain, North Africa, Greece, and Germania all calling themselves Roman citizens. The city that started as an Italian hill town became a global melting pot where anyone could become Roman through service, trade, or simply time. This discovery helps explain Rome's incredible resilience. When barbarian tribes arrived, many weren't conquering, they were migrating to join the most successful civilization they'd ever seen. Rome didn't fall to foreign invasion, it evolved through constant cultural integration, just as it had been doing for centuries. Understanding this archaeological evidence, the traditional story of Rome's decline takes on new meaning. When Marcus Aurelius died in 180 CE, the empire faced its greatest challenge, not external enemies, but the logistics of governing a territory so vast that news took months to travel from one end to the other. What followed was 50 years of chaos historians call the crisis of the 3rd century. In one 50-year period, dozens of emperors claimed the throne, most dying violent deaths. Barbarian invasions, plague outbreaks, economic collapse, civil wars. The empire that had seemed eternal was disintegrating. Emperor Diocletian made a radical decision: split the empire in half. East and West, 2 emperors, 2 capitals. Rome was no longer even the most important city in its own empire. Constantinople, New Rome, was getting all the attention and resources. But even in decline, Rome kept building monuments to its eternal importance. Diocletian's baths covered 32 acres and could accommodate 3,000 bathers simultaneously. The message was clear: Rome might be weakening, but it was still thinking big. Constantine changed world history with 2 decisions. First, he legalized Christianity, transforming Rome from the center of pagan empire to the heart of Christian civilization. Ancient temples became churches. Pagan festivals became Christian holidays. Rome was being spiritually reborn even as it declined politically. Second, Constantine moved the imperial capital to Constantinople, essentially abandoning Rome. For the first time in 700 years, Rome was no longer the center of its own empire. 410 C, Visigoth leader Alaric sacks Rome. The eternal city, unconquered for 800 years, falls to Germanic tribes. Then it happens again in 455 with the Vandals. The city that once ruled the world was being plundered by peoples it had formerly enslaved. But Rome didn't die. The population dropped to perhaps 30,000, but people stayed. They adapted. They survived. They kept the city alive through sheer stubborn refusal to abandon their home. 476 CE, the last Western Roman emperor, ironically named Romulus, is deposed by a Germanic warlord named Odoacer. The Roman Empire, which had lasted over 1,000 years, officially ended. But the city of Rome? Rome kept going. As imperial power collapsed, papal power rose to fill the vacuum. The Bishop of Rome became the Pope, claiming spiritual authority over all Christians everywhere. Rome transformed from the capital of a military empire to the capital of a religious empire that was potentially even larger. Medieval Romans literally lived among the ruins of their glorious past. The Colosseum became a fortress, then a church, then a stone quarry. The Forum became a cow pasture called Campo Vaccino. Ancient marble was burned to make lime for new construction. The Renaissance changed everything. Papal wealth funded artistic masterpieces that transformed Rome into an open-air museum. Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel ceiling. Bramante redesigned St. Peter's Basilica. Bernini created fountains that turned Roman squares into Baroque theater. This is the Rome millions of tourists experience today, not ancient Roman, but Renaissance and Baroque papal Rome designed to inspire awe and demonstrate the power of the Catholic Church. 1870. Italian forces breach Rome's walls and make it the capital of unified Italy. For the first time in 1,400 years, Rome was again the capital of a secular state. The Pope retreated to Vatican City, and Rome began its transformation into a modern European capital. Mussolini became obsessed with recreating imperial Rome through fascist architecture. He excavated the Forum by bulldozing medieval buildings, created the Euro district as a monument to fascist power, and built Via dei Fori Imperiali by destroying priceless archaeological layers. His vision was part theme park, part propaganda machine. He wanted modern Italians to feel connected to their imperial ancestors and support his dreams of conquering a new Roman Empire in Africa and the Mediterranean. World War II tested Rome's survival instincts once again. The city was declared an open city to prevent bombing, but Nazi occupation, resistance movements, and eventual liberation by American forces proved that Rome could still adapt to existential threats. The 1950s and 60s brought La Dolce Vita, The Sweet Life. Federico Fellini films, Hollywood stars at the Trevi Fountain, economic prosperity, cultural renaissance. Rome became a global symbol of style, sophistication, and the good life. Tourism exploded beyond anything in Roman history. Today, Rome receives over 30 million visitors annually, more people than lived in the entire city during the height of the empire. Everyone wants to throw coins in fountains, climb ancient steps, eat gelato in squares designed by Renaissance masters. 1980. Rome's historic center becomes a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The entire city center is legally protected as a monument to human civilization. Rome is not just a living city, it's a living museum where every layer of Western history coexists. Modern Rome faces familiar challenges. How do you grow and change while preserving an incredible past? Every construction project uncovers new treasures. The metro system was delayed for years because workers kept finding Roman aqueducts, medieval churches, and Renaissance palaces buried beneath the streets. The Vatican remains an independent country within Rome, the world's smallest sovereign state with immense global influence. Over 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide still look to Rome as their spiritual center, just as ancient subjects once looked to Rome for political leadership. Rome still influences your daily life in ways you never realized. The calendar you use? Roman. Legal systems in most Western countries? Based on Roman law. Government buildings worldwide? Roman architectural inspiration. Democratic institutions? Roman innovations adapted for modern times. Today you can eat lunch in a restaurant built inside a 2,000-year-old Roman theater, walk to your hotel past temples older than Christianity, then take photos at fountains designed by Bernini 400 years ago. Rome doesn't preserve history in museums, it lives it on every street corner. Metropolitan Rome now houses nearly 3 million people. It's a modern European capital with subways, universities, international businesses, and all the complexity of 21st century life. But unlike every other modern city, Rome's modernity coexists with literally every era of Western civilization. Romans call their city eternal, and after witnessing this complete 2,000-year evolution, maybe they're right. Rome has survived the collapse of the empire that created it, barbarian invasions, medieval chaos, Renaissance excess, fascist madness, and world wars. Through everything, Rome adapts, Rome survives, Rome endures. From mud huts to marble palaces to medieval churches to Renaissance masterpieces to modern metropolis, Rome's evolution is the story of Western civilization itself. Every era left its mark. Every generation added its layer. And every visitor becomes part of Rome's continuing story. The next time you vote in an election, you're participating in a Roman innovation. When you visit a domed building, you're seeing Roman engineering. When you speak words like senator, citizen, or republic, you're using Roman concepts. Rome's evolution isn't ancient history, it's your history. Rome began as mud huts, and became eternal. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to believe transformation is possible. And tell me, What's your mud hut moment? See you in the past.